Hello and welcome to another Teamfight Tactics guide. Today we'll be going over a 6 sorcerer kassadin build that I'm nicknaming clickbait kassadin because the concept of the build is that you get a 3-star itemed up kassadin that basically as soon as the fight starts one-shots the front line. I think this build is pretty good right now, so we're going to be going over what it is, how to build it, why I think it's a strong build in the metagame right now. Last time I made one of these guides, a bunch of people were saying, well, this Blade Master build seems fun, maybe cool in casual games, but doesn't seem like it would be actually effective in more competitive setting. Well, I just hit Diamond 1 myself, and I was playing this build a bunch when I was going up in Diamond to Diamond 1. So I think it's pretty good. I think that if you add this build to your kit and know when to use it, it can be really effective and it can help you climb. So to start off, because kassadin is the core unit of this build, just going to be going over some things about kassadin and how he works and why he's effective in this. So kassadin with the latest patch starts with 40 mana of a maximum 80. So the original idea of the build was that you put any 2-tier items on him, namely Seraphs, and he ults as soon as the fight starts. This is really cool and funny because he'll one-shot a frontline the instant that the fight starts, but it's not really necessary, and there are better items to put on him instead of that. And if you find the tiers in this build, they're probably better on Syndra anyway. Kassadin, when he's 3 stars, does 800 damage in an AoE in front of him, and any units that survive that, he disarms for 3.5 seconds. The reason that this specific build works is with 6 sorcerer Rabadons, and the way this interacts is you have 80% spell power or AP from 6 sorcerer and another 40% from Rabadons, and then all of that is added together, and you get a 50% bonus on that 120 AP. So together that's doing an AoE damage of 2240. If you add Ionic Spark to that, so just 2 items, then you're up to 2480 damage, and he'll have everyone's MR that's within 2 hexes of him, so they'll take even more damage, and the reduction in MR buffs the damage from the rest of your sorcerers. So for this build, you're going to want to prioritize these rods on carousel, but we'll get into why that's good later. So the strengths of this build is it has really, really high initial burst damage. If you put kassadin against any frontline unit, let alone a backline unit, anything that's less than 3 stars, sometimes even 3-star units, as long as they don't have Dragon's Claw, he is going to one-shot them as soon as he casts his spell with these 2 items. Anyone who has grouped up units against the kassadin is just going to get completely obliterated by the first spell cast, and you win the fight pretty much for free. Then if kassadin, once he does that, if he gets in melee range of a squishy, that squishy is dead, and you've won. Weaknesses of the builds, it only has 1 other frontline unit, and it's not a great frontline unit. The backline is really vulnerable to infiltrators, and this build is very positioning reliant. While he can one-shot frontline units without Dragon's Claw, if he gets stuck on like a Xin Zhao or something that has a lot of MR and a Dragon's Claw or a mech, then he's not going to do very much and you'll probably lose. So the tempo of the build, this is a level 7 targeted build. So you're going to want to get to level 7 with a lot of gold and then slow roll at 7 until you hit 3-star kassadin. As soon as you hit 3-star kassadin, then you can level up and go to 8 and add another unit. You are looking for these other units like Syndra and Ari and Annie, but you're not necessarily going to stay at level 7 just to roll for them. The extra unit is more important. This build really, really comes online, of course, when you get 3-star kassadin. So don't blow all of your gold as soon as you hit 7, and I would keep it and slow roll unless you go below 40 HP. Early game, what you're going to want to do is just play your strongest team comp while collecting sorcerers. However, the kassadins that you come across are a lot more important than the sorcerers, because the sorcerers, to have a good composition, you only need 2 stars, or for a lot of these, only 1 stars of them, whereas the kassadin is really who your carry is. So just play whatever you can get your hands on that's the strongest while building up these items. You're probably going to want to do a sharper transition. This is reminiscent of first set sorcerers, where I made a video about doing a really sharp transition or a pivot from an unrelated composition into 6 sorcerers, and this is going to work similarly. But one early game idea that you can do that'll be pretty effective is this is a 3-star Guardian and 2 Vanguard. So you start off with Poppy, Mordekaiser, and you put some items, especially Ionic Spark, on Mordekaiser. And then against early game blasters and chronos and stuff, they're going to be getting in melee range of Mordekaiser and just lose all their HP and kill themselves on his AoE and Ionic Spark. Another path that you can go is Chrono with Twisted Fate. I'm imagining that you add any 4th unit, whatever 2-star you can get, but you have a decent front line with Annie Shen here, and then the fight's gonna go pretty long because it's early game, and then Chrono is really strong. But those are just 2 openings that you can do with this build. You can do any opening you want as long as you're building up these items. Then mid-game, you're going to be planning your transition to 6 sorcerers. Make sure that you don't do this too early. This is a classic mistake of a pivot into a composition like 6 sorcerers, where you try to go into it too early. For example, you only have 1-star Syndra, 1-star Kassadin, and you don't have the items yet, and you replace a really good team with a really weak one, and you lose all your HP. But basically, you're just going to try to keep your HP up so that you can reroll for this. Then once you've assembled this in later game, level 8, level 9, the unit that you're probably going to want to add will be Lulu, because Lulu is going to help you with your worst matchup, which we'll get into, which is mech infiltrators. You just want to keep that Lulu alive so that she can polymorph the infiltrators so that your Kassadin has a chance to go to work. Late game, you are going to have to position really, really carefully. So you're going to want to scout to make sure that he's not getting Zephyred, because he has no room for an anti-Zephyr item here. And you're going to want to make sure that he's not getting caught up on a unit that he can't kill. As far as why I think this is actually a good build and not just a cool, funny one, it has a lot of the same strengths that Star Guardians does, but it's not contested like Star Guardians, and the items are easier to get. At Carousel, in addition to swords, everyone is going to be running to get that Seraphs, and to make Star Guardians really work, you really need a Seraphs and an additional tier on Syndra, if not 2 Seraphs, so that she ults as soon as the fight starts. That's nice in this build, but it's not necessary. Instead, what you're going to be doing is going for that rod off a carousel, and then the carousels to come. This is much easier to get, and just much more consistent to get those items rather than going for 1 or 2 Seraphs. Another reason it's good in the metagame is, unlike Star Guardians, people, at least right now, until this build comes out on YouTube, people don't know about it. So Star Guardians might be contested, but this probably won't be. And in fact, you want people to be going Star Guardians, because what'll happen is that with you buying these units but not needing to 3-star them, you will be keeping them down. You'll be keeping them off Syndra 3. You might even keep the mech players delayed from getting any 3, while you are free to get your 3-star unit. Other things in the metagame is that because of the lack of magic damage, people are really moving away from going 4 Mystic comps. A lot of people aren't even doing 2 Mystic comps anymore. For example, Protectors, people are skipping the Sona and just going into 4 Protector, 4 Celestial. And no one's building Dragon's Claw anymore either. So then Kassadin, especially with Ionic Spark, is basically just going to be dealing true damage to everyone, and that true damage, or near true damage that he's dealing, is more than units HP bars in this game. So this is just a really well-positioned build right now. So going over different matchups that you can play against, I'll start by ripping the Band-Aid off and talking about mech infiltrators, which is your worst matchup. For similar reasons to Star Guardians. So what's going to happen here is that your kassadin is going to get caught up on their mech, while their infiltrators are going to jump and murder your backline. So this is why you really, really need to, as soon as you hit 3-star kassadin, get that Lulu online. And I recommend finding some units, some items off of the later carousel so that you can have it survive. So as one example, what you can do in addition to Lulu, if you get off carousel, Locket is a really strong item against infiltrators, especially when you put it on a 3-star unit. So that's 300 health. So 1500 health across your backline. That might not seem like a lot, 300 health, but when it's being given to a Lulu or something with a stun like Lux, getting that spell off can really be the difference between victory and defeat. So it is possible to beat infiltrators, especially if there's more than one mech infiltrator player in the lobby, which there often is. I've heard that build can be kind of contested. Other matchups, Cybernetics. Cybernetics is a lot better. It's a great matchup unless they get Aurelia 3, but in that case, you are playing Teamfight Tactics and they are playing Aurelia 3. So you can basically just plan on hoping that you get second place behind the guy with Aurelia 3, which I'm totally fine with. Kassadin will take care of their front line in all other cases because their front line pretty much just stands there. And then Syndra can sit there and take out their back line. There are other similar builds like Blasters and Brawlers that have similar strengths and weaknesses. The difference is that those builds don't have Aurelia in them, so they're much, much better for you. So Kassadin can just be put up against 2-star Cho'Gath, and that's not really a big deal. He's going to, if not one-shot the Cho'Gath, take care of the Kassadin before he can cast a spell. Especially, even if he doesn't kill him, the disarm will prevent all those units from building up mana. There's a lot of cases where you put him up against Blitzcrank and Blitz hooks a unit, but then the Blitz dies before gets a chance to do a knockup. So next matchup is going to be Squid. Squid is a pretty good matchup for this build, and the reason for that is the positioning that people do. So what Squid players do is they'll put their 4 or 5 brawlers in the front line, and then imagine this is Vel'Koz here. So you have your front line here, and then they put their Vel'Koz in this position. Well, what you can do once you've scouted this and find out where their Squid is, if their Vel'Koz is here, you put your Kassadin here. And then right as Vel'Koz is casting his ult, or before he's casting his ult, because Kassadin only needs 40 mana, and he builds up mana both from attacking and from being auto-attacked, he's going to get his spell off, and he'll one-shot the Vel'Koz from here. And then once a Squid player's Squid is taken out, their team doesn't do much of anything. Next matchup, Star Guardians. Star Guardians is completely free because their front line is really weak. So you'll just place this, against a Nico or whatever, or Poppy, and that unit is not long for this world, so that'll get one shot. And then you have a bunch of squishy units against a very scary Kassadin who is not going to be able to die in one hit from their Syndra, especially because you're building Syndra 2, so it's impossible that they've hit Syndra 3 unless they've gotten incredibly lucky and you hit 0 Syndras. It's even funnier when they're doing the Sorcerer Star Guardian mech version of the build, because they put their mech here, you put your Kassadin over here, and then Annie distracts the mech here. Kassadin walks straight past the mech, one-shots their backline, and you win. Last matchup to talk about is all of the different Kale compositions. These are going to be pretty close, and it's pretty RNG reliant because it really depends on whether Syndra feels like attacking the Kale. If they don't have GA and Syndra just decides to, with one earlier ult, hit the Kale, then you've won. If Kale gets to survive until she gets ult off and then starts healing with Celestial or whatever bullshit, then you've probably lost. So it's a tough matchup, but definitely a winnable one. Again, Every matchup is super, super, super positioning reliant. I can't emphasize enough how important it is that you scout out where their Zephyrs are so that your kassadin doesn't get hit and so that your kassadin attacks the right units. So give this build a shot. Please let me know what you think. Play around with what to do at level 8, level 9, and different transitions that you can do into this build. Feel free also to play around with the different items on here. I'm certain that Rabadon's Death Cap is core on Kassadin because of how Death Cap interacts with AP from all sources in this game. The other items you can try to play around with, maybe the tiers actually are good. One humble request that I would do, this build, it's called Clickbait Kassadin for a reason. It is a really funny build to get on video, and it's never gets old watching Kassadin one-shot those units. I'd like to kindly ask if you're a YouTuber and you do make a video that shows this build with Kassadin one-shotting some units, if you just give this video a shout out so that people watch it. But other than that, I hope you enjoy. Let me know what you think. Because I'm Diamond 1, today I'm going to be ordering parts for a new computer. So within a few days, I'm going to start streaming, and either this build really takes off and this video does really well and I can't play it anymore because it'll be contested, or no one watches this video and I can play the build uncontested and then I'll be winning a lot. So either way I win. Again, let me know what you think. Really looking forward to seeing what people make of this. Thanks so much. Bye.